Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. I figured we would go live, see what's going on. Um, I've been pretty active on Twitter. I was just like, why don't I just go live, right? Um, all right, let me grab the link for this live stream and then post it. And we will just have some fun, talk about what's going on in the market, and see what's what and who's who. So, I mean, the markets are a little testy right now. I mean, Bitcoin's still above 20K, but it's mostly some of the altcoins that are starting to experience some downside. So I do want to talk about that a little bit. Let me post this on Twitter. All right. So Bitcoin's facing a little bit of selling pressure here, but the reason I think, listen, I mean, we can come up with a narrative for everything. We like to rationalize things as best we can because we prefer to make sense of everything around us. Um, some things can't be explained, right? I mean, sometimes the market just moves because the market moves. Um, Obviously, the talk of today is all this stuff going on with with the exchanges and whatnot. And I'm not going to get into all the drama. Believe me, you can find all that elsewhere. But we will at least keep an eye on some of these exchange tokens. You can see that this is recently broke support. Um, and by the way, this isn't even just with this. There's actually plenty of altcoins this has already occurred to. And again, I'm not here to get into the drama. I have no idea what's valid and what's not. But this is a pretty substantial move, and obviously, I think some people are starting to get spooked. Of course, this is not contained just to this one. Solana, you guys know my thoughts on that one, right? Um, Starting to get a little testy itself. So to put in a new low, Solana needs to go below like what, $26 or so. It's getting pretty close. I've often thought about this one, and like if you think about where Solana is today, and kind of where, like, think about it, compare it to say like Ethereum. So let's actually switch this chart over to Ethereum from the last cycle. I know the title of the video is called Bitcoin, but I just kind of tricked you, right? We're talking about some altcoins first. Um, if you think about like Ethereum from the last cycle, and if you want to look at it like this, you know, this this like intermediate accumulation. So this was like some consolidation on the way up to the final all-time high for that cycle for Ethereum. You can see that when it came back down, it actually spent some time at that same consolidation level, but eventually it broke down. Right? Eventually it broke down. It did not hold there forever. And you could even argue that it was all the way down here, in fact. So like if we were to draw a line, maybe that would be better. If you were to draw a line from this level over, Ethereum did not hold that consolidation level up to its new high. It hung around there for months, but it didn't hold it. Solana is this is what I would argue is that it's a very similar chart, is it not? It's very similar. You have your sort of your first impulsive move, consolidation, your second impulsive move, consolidation, and then your last one that marked the top for Ethereum back in in 2018. And arguably, you're seeing Solana do something very similar, right? Up, and then you get some level of consolidation, up, and then some level of consolidation, and then to the final plateau. I struggle to see how this is going to hold. Okay, I really do. I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first thing I've been wrong about, believe me. But I struggle to see how it's going to hold indefinitely. Um, and if you look at Ethereum from last cycle, it ended up being from the all-time high to the bottom. It was a 90, almost a 90, around a 95% correction, but it was in between this sort of plateau here and then the next one. I will be the first to say Solana is not Ethereum. I think Ethereum is by far better, right? Is my opinion, right? A lot of people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. But again, as always, my opinion cannot be bought. I will speak my mind on this. And so if you were to sort of think about it the same way, I mean, so far Solana's down about 90%, but I think sometimes people fail to recognize, just how much more what 95% would mean. I mean that's basically cutting it in half again. So there's a big difference between being 90% down and 95% down. I've learned this the hard way many times. Many times, more times than I care to count, right? I mean, I mathematically I know the difference, but sometimes you look at altcoins in bear markets and they look like there's like they're such good deals, and then they still drop, and it can easily cut their valuations in half, if not more, even when they're already down a lot. So yeah, I mean that one's really struggling to hold, and yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not very optimistic on the altcoin market, as you guys know. I'll probably change my tune sometime here in the coming months, but I've been pretty open about it. Haven't changed it all year. And yeah, I mean, you can see that this 22 level failed to hold. So it is propagating, right? I mean, like this stuff is propagating throughout the cryptoverse. It affects a lot of different things. If you think back to what happened with other institutions earlier this year, these things have a way of propagating through the cryptoverse. They're not like a self-contained thing that is only felt locally. It's felt throughout. And as soon as this broke, right? As soon as this broke over here, I mean, everything basically just started to drop, right? I mean, you instantly saw Bitcoin lose 1%. A percent's not a huge deal, but it just goes to show you how quickly these things can propagate throughout the cryptoverse. Ethereum's down almost 3%. ADA's down 3%, but why should today be any different than any other day? DOT's down 4%. Link's down 3%. Link's been showing some strength against Bitcoin recently, but against the US dollar, you could take it or leave it. Just been kind of going sideways for a while. And yeah, I mean, you have some of these altcoins that are really starting to flirt with their range lows for the last several months. And I mean, this is not. I mean, and some of them have already put in new lows, right? Polkadot has put in a new low. ADA has already put in a new low. Solana is very likely about to put in a new low, and so on and so forth. Bitcoin is still well off of its low. The 200-day still sits just above, which is still interesting because, Ethereum tagged its 200-day. If you go and look at Total 3, which is everything but Bitcoin and Ethereum, it tagged its 200-day as well. So Total 3 has tagged its 200-day. Total 2 has tagged its 200-day, which includes Ethereum but excludes Bitcoin. And Total, which is everything, has not tagged it. But again, a majority, or at least a decent portion of this is made up by Bitcoin. So I keep asking myself, will Bitcoin hit the 200-day before we get some ultimate resolution to this range-bound area that we've been in for the last half year almost at this point, right? Is the 200-day sort of an inevitability before you see any type of major move in either direction? And I mean, I think there's a case to be made for that. Especially you're seeing a lot of other coins sort of hit that level and show some, some anxiousness, right? I mean, again, Ethereum, and I made a video on this with Ethereum. Ethereum sort of tagged that level, and got somewhat spooked. So like, I mean, it hit its 200-day finally, and we made a video about this a few days ago that I thought Ethereum would get to its good chance it was going to rally up to the 200-day, and it hit it right around 1660 or so. And since then, this is, we're just looking at 3 red days in a row, and now we're currently in our fourth. It doesn't mean that it can't eventually break back above, but I mean, this is at least not that dissimilar from what we saw back over here in April, at least so far, right? Just a low, a higher low, and then you rally up to the 200-day, right? A low, a higher low, and then you rally up to the 200-day. There's some, I mean, there's some familiarity there, right? If I can get the word out. Um, but anyways, I mean, we can talk about some stuff. What do you guys want to talk about? Yeah, I mean, I mean, I can leave it up on the screen if you guys just want to watch it. I mean, if you look at it on a linear scale, it just looks absurd because it doesn't really look like there's much support on the way down. I mean, maybe in the 8 to 9, 8 to 10 range, but I mean, really, this was just sort of slow build up to like $4, and then we just took off. Right? I mean, it just took off. For full disclosure, I don't own this token. Right? I've been very against altcoins in 2022, and I've been left behind on some pretty brutal bear market rallies. But yeah, I mean, this one, it just looks like there's a lot of room below, plenty of room below here. I mean, from the high, it's already down 78%. So I mean, look, coins can go down 95%. I mean, if it goes down 95%, you're looking at a $4, right? It being $4. You might say, well, there's no way that's going to happen. Look, I don't know if it can happen. I don't own it. I don't really ever look at this token. But I will say this. If Ethereum, which is I mean, after Bitcoin, this is my favorite one. After Bitcoin, right? I mean, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum 1 and 2. But I will say this. If Ethereum can go down 95% in a bear market, don't tell me an altcoin can't, right? I mean, like, it's just, if Ethereum can do it, so can other coins. So, I mean, these are brutal lessons that many people have learned in the past. If you're in the chat and you were around for the 2018 bear market, I'm sure you remember just how brutal it was. So far, that bear market back then was actually a lot more brutal than the one we've had today, considering that Ethereum drops 95%. So I honestly don't think Ethereum will drop 95%. I mean, there is a such thing, I would argue, as diminishing losses. My point is that if Ethereum can drop 95% in a bear market, so can some of these other tokens. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, like, for reference, like, even if you think these things sound absurd, I mean, ADA is down. It went down 90% basically already. And again, Solana is down 90% already. So these 90%, 95% losses, they can't occur, right? I mean, this is why I said you really have to be careful with altcoins in bear markets, because you really don't know what they are, what they're capable of. And I mean, that's, again, I mean, you just don't want to marry an altcoin. It doesn't mean you can't make money with them. And I'm looking forward to talking about altcoins again on my channel next year. But in bear markets, I just find it, best to just sort of leave things be and kind of let the market unwind at whatever rate it needs to. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, if I'll pull it back up. I don't know if it's how much action it's going to see tonight. I mean, it did recently break through, and I mean, it's not really looking that optimistic here. So, anyways, Ethereum is currently at 1530. One thing you might note is that I still believe it's above its 20-week moving average, so still not really showing any signs of clear breaking of the 20-week SMA, or sorry, of the bull market support band in general, right? It got rejected so far by the 21-week EMA. So again, nothing too crazy just yet. Still has not broken above it. And even if it does, we still have to hold it as support. Furthermore, Bitcoin, if we go take a look at Bitcoin really quick, It's currently sitting just below the 20-week, but it did in fact have a close above the 20-week SMA last week. So this was the first time Bitcoin had a close above the 20-week SMA essentially since since March and April is the first time we were really back up into these levels. But again, you always need to see follow through. And we're not seeing it yet. It doesn't mean we won't, but we're simply not seeing it yet. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this. Some other ways to maybe look at this, sort of what's unfolding is, again, if you want to draw some lines and take those to the bank, which they're not going to cash them in. But if you were to do something like that, let me switch this over, or make this a little bit wider. So I mean, if you sort of look at this breakout that Bitcoin had, I mean, this is on a log scale. We can switch it to a linear as well. But if you look at this breakout that Bitcoin had, I think the argument is, well, at the very least, it seems somewhat likely that it could backtest the trend line. I mean, this is what a lot of times it will often do. So I would keep an eye out on that. I mean, if Bitcoin does come back down here and backtest this trend line, that could be an area of interest on Bitcoin's chart. The Ethereum Bitcoin valuation is currently coming in at 0.0749. Pretty similar area as to where it was right here. Still not showing. I mean, to me, it's still not showing. I know a lot of people are hoping this thing breaks out to the upside, but I still remain cautious on this pair in 2022. I mean, so far it's mostly just gone sideways this year. If we were to get the 12-month return on the Ether Bitcoin pair in 2022, it's down 6%, right? So it's marginally down. It's not down a crazy amount, but it is still somewhat down. And I mean, you can see like whenever the altcoin market gets these sort of scares and whatnot, the Bitcoin dominance starts to move higher just a little bit. I mean, it hasn't made any sustained breakout just yet, but it is something to watch. Do you guys have any questions? What's your best time frame estimate for the accumulation phase of a lifetime for Ethereum? Probably in 2023. I mean, is my guess. Again, if you think about it, when I did the accumulation phase of a lifetime video for Ethereum in 2019, it wasn't at the bottom. Like, right? I mean, it was after the bottom was in, and we were in a slow and steady uptrend going into what I thought was the next bull market. So there's a good chance I won't even make that video until well after the bottom is in, or more convincingly in. I mean, I know people want to argue that it's already in, and they could be right. But I think 2023 is going to be the year that you see that video come out, just like I put it out in 2019. So I think you just have to be patient. These things take time. The market takes time to really play out. And eventually we'll get there, right? Eventually we'll get there. And the 10 people that are left to watch my channel by the time we get to that point, we'll hopefully see it. But my guess is you won't see it until the mid part of next year. If you go look at my YouTube channel and sort by oldest videos, you'll notice that the first video on my channel is on Ethereum, and it's on the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation being undervalued, and you'll find that video was published right here. That was where I said I launched my channel in mid 2019 for a reason, because I thought the altcoin bleed against Bitcoin was just over. I was like, all right, it's done. I don't want to come out with a YouTube channel and start fudding altcoins. I'd rather come out and be pro, everything, because I think we're about to enter into a long period to the upside. And it's interesting because back then, if you go watch the videos, right? If you go watch my videos back then, the receipts are there. I actually thought that the Ethereum Bitcoin bull run would last until 2023. I mean, that was my base case, but it was also because back then I thought the Bitcoin bull run would last until that long. But I flipped over to being bearish on the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation right here. Okay, that's where I flipped to being bearish, and since then it's just been one hell of a ride. And right now it's funny because we're literally at the same level that I flipped to being bearish on, but it's just about half a year later. So perhaps I flipped too soon. You could argue that I'm wrong and it will continue to go up, but we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I'll see where things end up by early next year, and we'll have to see what's what. I mean, if Ethereum is still holding strong, then the game might change. But for now, let's just see kind of what happens with Ethereum in the short term. I will say though, with regards to Ethereum, I think the speculation that I have is, and I am very bullish on Ethereum long term. Don't mistake me. I mean, I really am. I think the thing that I think about, and this is something I think people should think about too, is it an oscillator or is it a slow gainer against Bitcoin? And I think you could make the case, and bear with me here, no pun intended, right? I think you could make the case that perhaps Ethereum's Bitcoin valuation is on some type of logarithmic regression curve, right? Something like that, where it's not necessarily an oscillator, but it slowly goes up with time, meaning it could come back. I mean, it could come back down to these levels over here, but I don't think it has to come back down to like, you know, 0.01 or zero point zero 0.02. I think it's more likely that it's just simply putting in higher lows, right? And maybe the next higher low could still be, you know, somewhere over here, and it's just sort of slowly gaining on Bitcoin over a long period of time. I think you could make the case that something like that could occur. The counterpoint is, what if you ignore this first sort of impulsive move by Ethereum and you just look at it like this? Then you argue that is this just an oscillator between this range, right? Like, does it just kind of go up and then come back down? And I don't know. I really don't know. If right now, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably not an oscillator. Like, it's probably more likely that it's slowly gaining value over time. Like, that's what it looks like to me, because I don't like to exclude data. Oftentimes people like to exclude data to tell a specific narrative about something, but I don't like to cherry pick, because I feel like if you cherry pick data, you can quickly find reasons to tell a narrative or tell a story that you find compelling to tell. Um, so I don't want to cherry pick. I mean, I do think it looks like it's slowly gaining on Bitcoin over the macro scale, but I'm still remaining somewhat cautious here, probably over the next 6 to 12 months. And as we get closer to the next Bitcoin halving, uh, I mean, certainly things could sort of go back the other way. But even then, Bitcoin normally leads bull markets, right? I mean, we saw it go parabolic in late 2020, and the dominance of Bitcoin went up quite a bit. Yeah, so I mean, this one's coming down quite a bit here. Um, why don't I zoom into the minute time frame? Yeah, so I mean, again, like I was watching this like a hawk earlier, because every time we kind of came down below, you could see the rest of the market get a little jittery. And once it crashed below, I mean, it looks like it's really affecting the broader market. Furthermore, the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation is going down, and the Bitcoin dominance is going up. Solana is dropping. I mean, it's down 10% on the day. And I mean, actually, this is just measured from the last like 2 hours, right? Or 3 hours. I mean, this is down. Solana is down a lot just in the last few hours. So, I mean, I mean, if you guys want my opinion on Solana, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where the bottom is. If I had to, I mean, look. First of all, let's be clear, and I want to be crystal clear about altcoins, right? The bottom can always be zero. I mean, I've seen plenty of altcoins go to zero. Um, so you start with that as sort of your base case. Then you work your way up to figure out if there's any reason for it not to go to zero. But I mean, it's down. It's already down 90%. We saw Ethereum go down 95% last cycle. So if this one were to go down 95%, you're still looking at another 50% haircut before all is said and done. Um, Matic has been showing a lot of strength recently. This is one I've talked a little bit on my channel before, and by a little bit, I mean it's been showing a significant amount of strength recently. Um, we'll see how long it can sustain it. There's always a few coins that do. Link was a coin that did. There's something. Let me show you an interesting comparison here. So if you look at Chainlink back in like 2018, you can see that it had and let me zoom into it so it looks a little bit more familiar. Link had an all-time high, and then in sort of like the mid part of the bear market, it rallied up, right? It rallied up, and then it rallied up again right before final capitulation of Bitcoin, right? It rallied up again right before final capitulation of Bitcoin, but it put in a lower low, or sorry, a higher low. So it showed a lot of strength throughout the second half of the bear market, but it still ended up capitulating. Now, during that time, the Link Bitcoin valuation was in fact going up, right? Link Bitcoin was going up during that time. Link USD put in a higher low. So, I mean, if you see something similar, I mean, Matic is, I mean, if the bottom does fall out in the crypto market and it comes back down, I mean, you might want to keep an eye on that one the same way that Link was a pretty good performer in 2019, and maybe Link will be a good performer in 2023 as well. Um, Sort of see. I mean, still got some time to see if that gets set up or not. But all right, what do you guys want to talk about? Someone says Solana just seems to be making a ton of progress with partnerships. Guys, listen, okay, like the partnership stuff is. Look, I mean, a lot of times when all, I don't. Let's just move on. Um, all right, any other questions? Dollar, yeah, the dollar is what is it at 110 or so? So it's still sitting at 110. I mean, I know a lot of people are bearish on the dollar. I'm still fundamentally thinking it could move back up again from a fundamental. I mean, look, treasury. I mean, yields are going up. Yields are going up. Fed's not done raising rates. Everyone thinks they're going to pivot every month, and then everyone goes on this like these everyone like FOMO's back in, and then Powell's like, no, get back down. Um, yeah, I mean, I think from a fundamental level, the dollar is not necessarily done. I mean, it could stay a while in that range, but Solana's back up 27. Ethereum's at 1524. Bitcoin is actually getting pretty close to 20K. So pretty close here. We'll see if it wants to come back to the trend line. Um, Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video I put out yesterday. It was pretty long. It was like almost an hour, but hopefully it was useful to you. What are my thoughts on midterms? Let me talk about that for a minute. Everyone says that everything's going to rally after midterms. Well, what's interesting is if you go back and look at 2018, this yellow line is where midterms occurred. So 2018, there was no rally after midterms. There was a rally for a day or two, and then it came down. But if you go back to 2014, there was a rally after midterms, and then we just sort of continued on for a while. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I think everyone wants to sort of say that everything has to rally after midterms. If you look at the most two recent examples of the S&P 500 at midterms, in one instance, after midterms, the market basically fell another 17%. And then after this midterm, the market continued to rally until the following August, and then it sort of came back down. So I don't really think you can put that much weight into midterms. I mean, there's not like a clear sign of what it has to or has to not do after midterms. Make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel. And again, we do have the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium. You guys can check that out. I'll put it in the comments. What do I think about? I don't know if you're trolling, man, but I hope you are. Someone says, what do you think about taking out a personal bank loan to buy crypto? Good credit and ability to make monthly payments. That sounds like playing with fire and is not something I would ever recommend doing. Um, that sounds a great way. It sounds like a great way to get into a really bad situation. This is actually like the first bear market where I've really just sort of sat out of the altcoin market and just watched it slowly come down over the whole year, right? I mean, in 2018, I YOLO'd back in a bit too soon. In 2014, I got in way too soon. 2018, I waited until Q3. Um, this is like the first one where I've just sort of been sitting on the sidelines. But yeah, someone asked about Bitcoin dominance. It's still sitting at 40, 40 to 41%. So not a huge change. Um, the only thing that might be somewhat interesting if you're following it is sort of we had this sort of pullback right here, and then in 2018 after that pullback we sort of had a higher low that was sort of right above it a few weeks later. Maybe that's what we're doing again. I don't know. Uh, we'll continue to follow along. I still think that the altcoin market. I mean, look, if the cracks start to show, right, which it seems like there's some evidence of right now, if the cracks start to show, things can move quickly. I'm not trying to say it's going to happen right now. I mean, these have been holding up for a long time. These things could easily bounce back up tomorrow, and everyone forgets about it again for another 3 months, right? But you always have to be careful with the altcoin market. There's no telling, at what point could the floor fall out. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know if it's about to or not. I think that some of the coins are starting to show some weakness, but a lot of times these things can take months to play out, right? If you go look at like Avalanche, it hasn't put in new lows yet. But a lot of the altcoins did something like this. Like let me show you a couple examples. So like a lot of the altcoins did something like this, right? Like so Avalanche, it put in a low, a higher low, a higher low, and then it fell below it, back tested it, right? So a low, a higher low, a higher low, a back test of it, another back test of it, another back test of the trend line, another back test of the trend line, and still unable to break through. ADA is doing the same thing, right? Like, so if you go take a look at what ADA did, you could argue that it's more or less trying to do um, a somewhat similar thing, right? I mean, it might not be exact, or maybe it is exact, right? Like maybe it is exact, right? So like ADA, like a low, a higher low, a higher low, coming sort of below the trend line and then coming back up to retest it and then to retest it again. So, I mean, these things just take a long time to really play out. All right, Bitcoin's currently coming in at 20.2K. I will say this again, right? So, for everyone sitting in the back of the room, not your keys, not your crypto. All right. A lot of people have learned the mistakes before you. So if you have to learn the same mistakes that the people before you learned by keeping all your crypto on centralized platforms and whatnot, that's on you. Okay. I mean, all the people who've been in crypto, all they can do is tell you what not to do or what they think is the right thing to not do or to do. It's up to you to follow it. That's just a good rule of thumb. Links back to 850. Yeah, we'll pull up the chart again over here to see people are asking for it. Yeah, still sitting below 18. I mean, look, guys, look at the effect it's already had on markets, right? And it just started. I mean, what happens if it continues to drop? Um, yeah, and a BNB Bitcoin is just racing to new highs. It actually has done similar things in prior occasions. You can see it sort of race to a new high over here in the middle of the 2018 bear market, and then it also did it right before Bitcoin broke out in early to mid 2019. Futures are coming in a little positive right now. So we'll see what happens tomorrow on midterms. All right, so Ether Bitcoin is now at 0.0748. The dollar is still at 110.2. Bitcoin's getting a little testy here at 20.2. Little testy. All right, we're below 20.2. 2190. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, you know? I'm looking forward to when we do the live streams again in the bull market, right? They're not as fun to do in the bear market. It's just like, what are you going to say? Like, oh, we put in a new low again. Um, in the bull market, they're a lot more fun. $21.85. Actually, you know what I should do? I mean, I want to pull this one up, but I need to add this to my watch list to keep a better eye on it, because I don't want to just go back over there constantly. We'll just move this up here, and that way you guys can see it. So it's currently at 1781 and falling. 1779. Solana has been going down relatively quickly with it. I'm sure you can guess why. Solana, all right, let's see, guys. It's at 2650. So the low that Solana has put in so far is at, well, it's at 2592. So Solana is getting pretty close to putting in a new low itself. Bitcoin's at 2175 or 2185. 2185, not 2185. All right. Man, this could be a fun night. 20,155. So yeah, if we were to backtest this trend line, if I actually put it on the right scale, right? It's getting pretty close to the prior low. Ether Bitcoin, 0.0747. Ether is getting close to dropping below 1,400. So far, again, I know a lot of people are hoping this breaks out, but I mean, so far it's just a rejection off the 200-day. Nothing more, nothing less. ADA is back below 39 cents, and again, you sort of see that same type of rejection there. We can pull up the logarithmic regression band. Or maybe the rainbow. Let's see where that one is. So you can see where Bitcoin tagged back in 2020 on this lower regression band. If it were to do that again right now, it would correspond to about 16.3K to go to that same level of capitulation in March of 2020. And then, I mean, there's always the lower regression band as well, but just sort of giving you a reference as to how bad it got. Like if you're trying to figure out how bad was it in March of 2020, you could draw some comparisons by looking at the regression band. All right, Ethereum just broke below 1,500. The dominance of Bitcoin is slowly going higher. I do think that is the path of least resistance still. I'll show you guys another chart. If you actually look at the Bitcoin dominance without stable coins, right? So look at the dominance of Bitcoin. This is what it looks like without stable coins, and apply a moving average to it. To me, it just sort of looks like it's building out a pretty big base here. I mean, I guess you could argue that it's consolidating for the next leg down, but I think you could argue this is a 50-day SMA. Kind of just looks like it's building out a big base to me. But I am biased, so take that. Maybe take it with a grain of salt. All right, 2160, 20,160. ADA is still below 39 cents. Link's down to 850. Matic's down to 111. What's FTT? It's back up to 18. The dominance of Bitcoin, including stablecoins, is up to 40.84. What else you guys want to talk about, or should we just wrap it up? Someone says, why are people selling Matic? I don't know, maybe because it just went up a ton. So Avalanche's low is what? 1375. So it's still a little ways off its low. Yeah, if we go take a look at the running 1-year ROI, let me reload this chart and see. All right, so it's currently at 0.302. It probably needs to update because it was that way like a little bit ago. It's currently at 0.302. You can see where historic bottoms have occurred. All right, Bitcoin's back above 20.2. Ether's Bitcoin valuation is 0.0747. FTT's moved back up a little bit here, back up to 1878, but I mean, I don't know. This seems like it's under quite a bit of pressure. I mean, we'll see where it ends the day. But I mean, it was like, when I was watching this earlier, it seemed like everyone was watching it. Normally when everyone starts watching something, it's like it sort of is like becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a bear market. Yeah, someone says I want to go to bed. Well, see, the problem is we just had daylight savings, but my young kids don't get that memo. So, they still want to get up when, at the time they normally do. Like they don't always, they're not going to always understand. Like, oh, you can stay in bed an hour later. And it's even worse because now the sun is up earlier, right? So they like a lot of times they'll just if the sun is up, they'll be like, all right, that's the reason to get up. Yeah, Bitcoin's currently at 20.2. Nah, guys, I'm not taking altcoin requests. I'm sorry. No altcoin requests today. I've been pretty adamant. I'm not interested in the altcoin market in 2022. We'll talk about the altcoin market more so in 2023. I'm just looking at a few of the altcoins that I've been following for a while, just to kind of see where they ultimately end up. But I'm not. I mean, I've learned my lesson in prior bear markets. Don't just sort of ignore the altcoin market for a while and wait for the dust to settle. Um, all right, this one's just all over the place. It's back below 18. If we look at it on a minute chart, I mean, look at this. It popped back up to like 19 for a minute, and then it just came right back down. There's just a lot of air, right? There's just a lot of air. Do I think the reduction in used car prices is an indication that CPI may come in lower than expected? I don't really know. I mean, I think there's a good chance that core CPI could end up seeing like a double peak, but I don't know. I'm not that confident of that peak already being in, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people have sort of become somewhat okay with headline CPI because it's been slowly going down. But I will say this, the strategic petroleum reserve has been depleted throughout a lot of this year, and after the midterms, I think they're going to slowly stop doing that. So if we're not in a recession and that's no longer being depleted, oil could go back up, and it already is going up, right? I mean, if you look at oil, I mean, I know you guys don't subscribe to me to hear me talk about oil, but just bear with me for a minute. If you look at oil, it's starting to like break out again, right? Like you could argue that it broke out back in October, came in for sort of like a retest maybe, and then is sort of breaking back out to the upside again. What happens if we're back up to $120 oil in a couple months? You know, what do you think that's going to do to CPI? The cold hard truth, right? And I've said this before if you watch my macro videos, but I'll show it once again in case anyone's interested. This is the cold hard truth when it comes to inflation. And again, I know it's hard to believe, but it's one of these things where like most of us have never experienced it before. So you have to look back at what history tells you. And what you'll notice, and we're first going to add on recessions, and then I'll add on, we'll add on inflation. Okay, so this is inflation year over year. And then what we'll add on are the US effective interest rate. And we're going to switch this to the same scale and we're going to zoom it in. And I'm telling you, right? Like, again, this is not my opinion. This is just what the data says. So don't get mad at me. Take it up with the data. The data says that inflation year over year does not come down until interest rates are above it, right? I mean, you can see interest rates are the yellow line. The orange line is US inflation year over year. Interest rates typically need to be above inflation for inflation to come back down. We are so far behind the curve right now. I mean, I know a lot of people are upset that they're at 4%, but inflation's at 8%. So it's just like it's a tough thing to think about. And you know, I know a lot of people say, well, all this stuff is lagging and stuff, but first of all, housing went up a ton, and it takes a long time for that to get reflected. I mean, if housing were not lagging, it should have been reflected in the data, you know, back in 6 months ago, and it would have been a lot higher than 9.1% at the peak if it weren't lagging so much. But I mean, this is how the Federal Reserve reads the data. Whether you agree with it or not is somewhat irrelevant. It's just that's how they look at the data. It shows that the effective interest rate of the United States has to go above inflation before inflation comes back down, typically. I mean, does that mean that the Fed funds rate has to go to 8%? Probably not, because, I mean, if inflation sort of slowly starts to come back down, then maybe we can get back above it. Or maybe you could argue that we just have to get above core inflation, which is, you know, like between 6 to 7%, or PCE, or whatever it might be. My point is that you know, and throughout all of 2022, there's people that always talk about a Fed pivot. There's people that say that it can't go above 3.5%, but that's just not what the data says, right? The data says they're likely going to keep going higher. They're going to probably be at least at 4.5% by the end of the year, maybe 4.75%. And, you know, I mean, they're probably going to continue raising in 2023 as well. Believe me, though, you don't want them to let it become entrenched. That would be the worst thing. Why? You go take a look, right? Go look at major indices. You add on, if you add on the S&P 500 to this chart, that's what you get. And when you get a period of high inflation like you got in the 70s, the stock market goes sideways, okay? I don't want that, right? I don't want the stock market to go sideways for 10 to 15 years. That would suck. That would be a trader's market. And unfortunately, I'm not that into just trading ranges. I mean, if that's what we get, then I might have to adjust, right? I might have to adjust if this is what we end up getting. Like, I have to constantly remind myself, if in the next Bitcoin bull market we still have inflation running at like 6% or something, then it could temper our expectations. That's why I would actually prefer that the Fed just continues to raise rates, get it high enough to bring down inflation in a meaningful way, and then hopefully we can just move on with our lives, right? But if they make the same mistake that they made in the 70s and the early 80s, where they got it under control in the early 80s, but if they make the same mistake, then you're looking at a potentially, like, you know, a stock market that puts in a new high every few years, maybe then it puts in a new low. So I don't really want to live through that. I would prefer that Powell just continues to do what he has said he's going to do, and that's just continue to raise interest rates. And I've said this before too. I think he knows that they have to go a lot higher. I just don't think he want to says it. But if you read between the lines, he'll say things like we're nowhere even close to talking about a pivot. He'll say things like we have a long way to go in terms of raising interest rates. I just think that if he came out and said that the target rate is well above 5.25, which is what the market is currently pricing in, then you would see a major, more of a major downturn in the equity market. And I don't think he wants that. I think he'd prefer just to stay in a structural bear market just to sort of keep things slowly moving down. Because if things move down too quickly, then you run the risk of breaking something. And if you break something, then what happens? How do you get out of it? You can't print your way out of it. Inflation's still at 8%. So what do? I don't know. I don't know what they would do. So that's probably why he's running he's trying to run a relatively tight ship or whatever exactly on what he wants to say at some of these meetings. But all right, Bitcoin is back below 20K. Ethereum, Bitcoin's valuation is 0.0743, so it's dropping. Solana's at 26.50. Matic's back down to 109. ADA's at 38 cents. And damn, the Bitcoin dominance is still at 40.7%. All right, 19.7. This is a good day to do a live stream. 19.7. 19.6. We'll see what Litecoin's doing. Yeah, it's coming back down. No surprise there, right? Matic's back to 108. Ether Bitcoin's continuing to drop 0.0743. FTT's back below 18. I'm telling you, these things, they propagate through the market so quickly. Someone says I seem happy. I've just been sitting out of the altcoin market this year. I'm hoping next year will be a good year. So we'll see. We'll see where the thing ends up. We'll see where all this stuff ends up by end of year. Yeah, it's slowly moving down. Let's zoom in on the 1 minute time frame. We're at 1767. So it's starting. I mean, it's sort of putting in these higher lows, but I don't know. This probably won't hold for too much longer. Bitcoin is back to 19.7. Ethereum's 14.70. So I believe Ethereum is it at its 20 week? Might be getting close to the 20 week. Yeah, so it's right below its 20 week at 1470. So it's at its 20 week, right? At 1470 is where its 20 week SMA is. So look, there's no follow through here yet, right? Like it's still a rejection off the 200-day until proven otherwise. I've told you guys 1,000 times the 200-day is important in a bear market. Don't forsake it. It will remind you who is boss. This is one rejection over here, and so far this is a second rejection. We'll see what happens, but that's what it is so far. All right. All right, Bitcoin's below 19.7. So I think one of the things that's notable here is that it's currently below sort of these prior lows over here. So you can no longer say this is just a higher low, right? For a little bit, you could have argued we were putting in higher lows, but now that's taken out. So, maybe you start to look at this at the potential retest of it. All right, win cardboard box. Hey, I know people keep asking me. The desk is still cardboard. I've not upgraded. Yeah, we'll take a look. Ethereum is bouncing around a little bit, right? It's trying to hold on. It actually just bounced back up to 0.0749, so it's trying to do something, but um, nice little wick there. But this also is a lower low. I mean, this is in fact a lower low. Maybe this is sort of just like a channel. I don't know. We'll see where it goes here in the short term. All right, Bitcoin's back below 19.7. I'm surprised. So FTT is back above 18 as well. So it hasn't really sold off much since we came on live. Like it's still been sitting around that 17, $18 level for a while now. But Bitcoin actually is moving down somewhat quickly here. I mean, from this top here on November 5th, it's down about 8.5%. All right, 19,642. Um, all right, 19,560. I need to go see if this is updating or not. It should update in a little bit, but it's currently sitting at 0.302. It's an interesting time for this to occur because, like if you think about it, this is about 1 year after the all-time high. So the all-time high was on November 8th. So a year later is tomorrow. So, yeah. What was the worst capitulation in your opinion? 2018 or 2020? Um, Maybe 2020 was worse because like I think in 2018, like I always knew it was sort of a possibility, but it happened over like the thing with 2018 is that it happened over like a month or so. But 2020 happened like overnight. Like I mean like I just woke up one morning and like my entire portfolio was down 60%. And I remember like looking at my phone and checking my portfolio and I like I didn't believe it at first. Like I'm like, okay, something's wrong with the app. Like there's no way Bitcoin is at like $4,000. It was just at $8,000. Like how could it possibly be down that much in that short amount of time? And it was. And I mean back then I was actually I was actually um, just sort of frantically buying because I was like, I didn't think we would get those prices again in the short term. I did think we would go back down. Like I didn't think the bull market was about to start because I thought it would take a lot longer to get going. But in fact, we did go down further than I thought we would. Like I thought we would go down. I just didn't think we'd go down that much. Um, and by the way, some coins put in new lows. Some of the coins actually put in new lows. And I mean, I know Bitcoin didn't and Ethereum didn't, but some of the altcoins actually went to new lows in March of 2020 that were lower than where they went in December of 2018. And I think a lot of people forget about that, but I mean, it really washed out a lot of altcoins, and the Fed started printing money. The problem this time is the Fed can't really print money because inflation is sky high. That's why they really should get interest rates up a lot higher, I think, to try to bring down inflation very quickly. Because the longer they take, I think it's just the worse. I mean, it can just become entrenched. How much did I buy at $4,000 Bitcoin? Not enough, right? That's probably the right answer. Not enough. I'm seeing some hold on. I'm seeing some rumors in the chat. I don't know if they're true, so I'm not gonna repeat them because I don't want to spread things that aren't true, but some interesting rumors spreading around. All right. Bitcoin's at 19.7, Ethereum's 14.78, FTT 17.9, Solana 27. I mean, a lot of these are still struggling. All right, guys, it's getting pretty late here. I mean, it's like it's like watching a slow motion train wreck, right? But I'll stay on a few more minutes. Stay on a few more minutes, but my kids are gonna wake up early, regardless of what the crypto market is doing. So, uh, and I actually have a video that I recorded earlier today that I'll post in a little bit. So I will be putting out another video here shortly. I wasn't even planning on doing this live stream. I saw the floor fall out here, and I thought it would propagate to the rest of the crypto market, and it looks like it did. Um, so I mean, yeah, Bitcoin right now is at 19.7, starting to get a little testy here. The lowest it has gone today is 19.547. So it's just off its low by about $150 or so, $140. Yeah, make sure you guys check if you guys want to follow all the charts that I have into thecryptoverse.com. Yeah, I don't really want to repeat the rumors, but I mean maybe I can go look. Um, are the rumors true? Let me see. I don't know. Yeah, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Someone said Tether's at 102. That's usually a sign that people are frantically panic selling. By the way, if you think about it, how many good decisions have you made when you act on emotion, right? I mean, you've had plenty of time to figure out what your strategy is here. There's no reason to make a. Well, on here it says it's not actually, so I don't know. No, guys. I mean, if you're gonna make decisions, try to do it when the market isn't moving like crazy. It's a much better time to make decisions. All right. I just kind of want to see what Bitcoin's gonna do here if it's wanting to move lower. I put out a video yesterday. It's like 50 something minutes long. I would go watch it if you haven't. Okay, I go through a ton of indicators. We talk about, why are the bulls bullish, but we also talk about why are the bears bearish. It at least should provide a framework for you to cultivate your own opinion as to what you think is the most likely outcome in the short term. And I try to do it as unbiased as I could, as objective as I could. So go check out that video if you haven't checked it out. And I'm going to be releasing another video here shortly that is, I think, is also going to be relatively useful for everyone. So, and it's also, I think it's not as long, but it goes through a lot of stuff. Um, all right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. There's always tomorrow, right? Crypto will still be here tomorrow. Well, maybe not all of them, but um, why don't we wrap it up there? Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. We actually do have a Telegram channel, so let me grab the link for that if you guys want to check that out and continue the party over there. You can go do it. I just put the link to the Telegram channel in the chat, and then also I actually have a Twitter. I mean, you probably follow me. You might know my main Twitter, but I actually started one for Into the Cryptoverse as well. I'll post that in the chat if you guys want to go follow me over there. We'll see what happens here. Right now, Bitcoin's coming in at 19.7. Ethereum Bitcoin valuation is 0.075. FTT is still below $18. So if this continues to get wrecked in the short term, it's probably going to continue to propagate to the rest of the crypto markets. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens overnight if it continues to drop, or if it's just a wig. Oh, Solana Bitcoin is now at 13,000 Satoshi, so just below 14,000 Satoshi. So it's yeah. I mean, I've been following this one forever because I've continued. So I talk more about it on the premium side, but I've been fairly adamant that this was gonna break to the downside. You can see that it's just been following the the bull market support band, or if you prefer, the bear market resistance band has just been continuing to knock it down. The entire bear market. It just takes a long time, right? Like, it takes a super long time for it to actually finally push down to these lower levels. If it comes down to the bottom of the trend line here by the end of the year, I mean, it could easily be 50% lower on its Bitcoin pair. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not an expert on Solana TA. I don't own any. I think a lot of altcoins are going to be stuck in traffic on Struggle Street for a little bit, but we'll see. Bitcoin's 19,776 and Ethereum's 1482, and it's still sitting at 0.075. The dominance is at 40.6, and so on and so forth. We have midterms tomorrow, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of volatility as well in the markets. And then furthermore, we have CPI on Thursday. So no shortage of incoming data that I'm sure we will try to dubiously speculate on what the Fed will do. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Check out Into the Cryptoverse Premium. We do have a sale going on right now at intothecryptoverse.com. I'm fairly active. We have a Telegram alerts channel, so check it out. I'll see you guys